Welcome to this episode of the Customer Centric Retailing Podcast. This is Anil Patel, founder and CEO of Hotworks Commerce. In this podcast, we discuss e-commerce, omnichannel technology, pre-order management, brick-and-mortar operations, retail culture, innovation, and how all these elements come together to create customer-centric retailing. Join us to hear the brightest minds in the retail industry share their experiences and thoughts on the most relevant topics today. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Customer Centric Retailing Podcast. You know what, today I'm super happy, super excited because I'm talking to an entrepreneur. I'm going to be having so much fun having this conversation today because a lot of it is going to come from my real life experiences and I'm going to be asking for help. Hey Neely, how are you?
Hi, Anil. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to introduce you, Neely Powell, CEO of Charleston Shoe Company. I mean, like such a great, I've gone through your website, browsed through the catalog, and I cannot wait to bring my wife to actually, your main store in Charleston, right? That must be the flagship store?
That is the flagship store, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking that, I want to come there with my wife when you are in this store.
Great. It's a date. Make sure I'm there.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. I'm so excited. I just want to hear it from you. Your journey, how you started, particularly, really, I want to get real life experiences. I know we've heard your journey, read all that on your website, but really something that you haven't yet been discussing in all these podcasts and on your website.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I always like to say that I'm a 25-year overnight success. So as an entrepreneur, everyone can relate to that, I'm sure. I guess my flagship store technically wasn't really in Charleston. It was out of the trunk of my car. As all entrepreneurs do, and all of us starting businesses, we build it from the ground up, and I really did from the ground up as a teenager in college. I brought shoes to sell at furniture markets to all the women wearing uncomfortable shoes. I noticed this miss in the retail business then. That comfort was kind of a bad word, for women in shoes. It wasn't cute, and really all you had were options of tennis shoes or something very, unattractive and not fun. And I started bringing these shoes back, and I started this frenzy of excitement to providing these comfortable shoes to all these women, professional women, mothers, everything, the gamut, and all ages as well. And so I built this business for about a dozen years, just wholesaling the line and selling the shoes out of the trunk of my car. And in 2010, I went back to study shoe design. I was 31 and had not yet a 2-year-old. And I opened my first store in April of 2010, and 2 more followed within that first year. So it was very exciting and has continued to be exciting now with 25 locations around the country.
Awesome, really good. You know what? I like that part where you started and then went back to the school to learn the design. And then when you opened the store, the secret is that you are mom of a young child, like 2 years. That's like not even 2. That's a lot of challenge, actually, Already doing small business is so much of a challenge. And then on top of it, you add it. So you are a strong woman, actually. I appreciate that.
Mothers are multitaskers, to say the least. So running 3 stores and having a child and doing all the things and continuing to grow the business, was kind of second nature to me, if you will. But it was a fun beginning to the journey, and it's continued to do that.
Awesome. You are motivated. You are quite an entrepreneur. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to be able to talk to you and, learn about you. Awesome. Cool. You know what? In fact, we as entrepreneurs, especially, getting started, and you are even today, after 26 years of overnight success, you are still very much hands-on. growing your business from your trunk to the stores, and now so many, like what, 20 plus stores so far?
Yes.
You must have played so many different roles and responsibilities. So can you tell us about various roles and responsibilities that you played, and what was those key to success in those roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing about being an entrepreneur and what we all, you know, um, kind of possess is this natural ability to pivot and to wear a million hats and be humble enough to do all of those jobs, from taking out the garbage to still working in stores to, working on accounting, working on HR, and everything is really, there's such a fine line in delegation, as we talked about. It's you can't do it all. We want to, because it's our baby, and we're the one that feels as passionate about it. So when you surround yourself with people who feel as passionate as you do about your business, you are so blessed to have those employees and be able to delegate things so that you can keep growing. Because I think what ends up happening in starting a business is you get tied up in all the day-to-day things. I mean, we're firefighters, right? We're constantly putting out fires, and it starts to take away from us growing the business and expanding ideas and pivoting and reinventing the wheel. And so I think it's super important to be able to find people you trust and to delegate those responsibilities that, I'm not always the smartest person in the room. I don't have a law degree. I don't know, all the basics of accounting and how to do payroll and all of that. So you've got to surround yourself with people that you trust, and you can delegate these things to, so you can continue to make the company better and stronger.
Yeah, I know this is true that as we entrepreneurs, we want working hard. We are lucky, I would say, and only lucky people who get those team, the people who you can trust, and the people who become part of your business, and they take it as their own personal business. Everything is then personal to them also. When they see any penny getting wasted, they notice it, and then they take action. If they see lost opportunity, they notice it, and then they take action. So if we did not have those people in our team, I don't think we can achieve anything near what you have achieved, let's say, in 26 years, right?
Absolutely. It's just so important, and it's really important to remain humble in all the growth as well, and not be too proud to do any job. I mean, every job is really amazing and super important in the growth and kind of vitality of the business.
Yeah, that's true. As you started growing your business, first, definitely, when you were selling off of your trunk, there was a lot of you were traveling, making a lot of personal relationships, and you were selling. As you try to grow the business, like you opened the store, the first thing that comes up is having that, building the brand, building that trust. Now, in this market where there are like so many big boys, there are so many big brands who have like a deep pockets or to spend on marketing. I really want to know that magic that went behind the scenes to build that brand, the trust, so that you could grow your business. Tell us about how all that journey that you had for building this brand to this level.
That's such a interesting question, because it's so true that I came from nothing. I borrowed, $5,000 from my mom and her business partner for my first and last month's rent on my first store. And when I'd go to shoe markets, there were all these big shoe dogs, as they call them. It was a very male oriented business. All the shoe salesmen were men, and these big companies had been around for generations. I'm new. I'm creating a comfort line, which in the 90s was a bad word. And I'm creating it from scratch with no money to market. I spent $0 on marketing. And so I decided to do things differently, and really with the idea that everyone needs to take retail back to the way that it used to be, when it was an experience, when you went with your grandparents or your parents and went shopping, and it was like it wasn't just walking into a store and paying for an item. It was actually building these relationships and meeting these people. So, when I first opened my very first store, the movie "If You Build It, They Will Come," that didn't really happen. Um, and so I had to think differently, and I had to figure out ways to get people in my store. And I started very first week, I decided to wear two different shoes and stand out on the street. And as people would walk by, they would either think I was crazy and come in my store and be intrigued, or, they think it was a lot of fun and do the same. And I knew all I had to do then was get a pair of my shoes on these women's feet, and they would be sold for life. Not to mention the stories we talked about in the store and the relationships we were building. And what ended up happening was this um, amazing, uh, viral thing with these shoes. And these women were almost like my own personal marketing team. And they were like the Pied Pipers, right? I'd sell some shoes, and then a few hours later they'd be coming back to the store with strangers saying they tried on my shoes. And I think it's because they experienced something different, and when you go in any of my stores around the country, we're all wearing two different shoes. And when you walk in, we don't say, can I help you? We tell them the story of who we are and what we do, and then we ask them where they're from, and try and create some kind of personal experience. I don't want anyone to feel like, Julia Roberts and Pretty Women walking into a store and feeling, you know, not adequate enough to be there. So I think that's what we do, and it shows in the way that our customers are so loyal, and they are our number one advocates for the business.
Yeah, this is so good. In fact, I like this point that your customers are your advocates. And in fact, all these big companies, even today, when there are startups, I see when I'm going in the market, and there are all these companies popping up, and they are funded. They get like $20 million or whatever, like in Series A or then Series A plus. And then they take all that money and put it in marketing and burn that money, and finally after a few year or two you see that all that money is gone and you still don't have customer. On the other side, what you did on the flip side is like, you were active yourself, came up with your own creative idea, and in fact, like you said, even today you wear two different color shoes. That's interesting in your store. So which is really interesting, and also like a uniquely representing the brand and the relationships that you have built over time, the customers. Also, one interesting thing that you talked about was really caught my attention is that when I talk to retailers about their store experience, they all say that our stores are experience center, our customers can come and experience and all that. But I'm always missing that little thing of what exactly do you mean by the experience? But what you said was magical. That when some customer walks in, you don't ask them, "How can I help you?" Instead, you have a conversation with them, which is so amazing, actually. I like that part.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all it's been my whole career is building these relationships, not only with my customers, but my employees that are like my family. And so we want everyone to come into our store and feel like you're shopping in your best friend's closet. And the majority of our stores are in walking tourist towns, so we see a lot of different people coming and going. And we have notepads on the desks so that people can write restaurant recommendations and different things to do in town, because it really is, you're coming into our town, you're seeing what we're providing, and we want you to have a great experience, wholeheartedly.
Awesome, awesome. This is good. Definitely your overnight success in this 26 years. I'm sure it was not like a smooth, it was a big roller coaster ride, right? And more going downs than ups.
Exactly.
So yeah, tell us about some of those cool events like that now you cherish. At that time they were painful. So tell us about all those events that are were painful back then, but now you see, man, I did it.
You know, it's not a was, right? As an entrepreneur and someone that builds a business, it continues. They don't just problems don't magically go away. I think the biggest thing to remember in being an entrepreneur is we're so lucky to be able to live and do and work by building something that we're passionate about. I mean, I consider myself so blessed to do that. And problems aren't problems, they're opportunities to make your business stronger. And if you think of it that way, and you think of it as a journey and not to get over a finish line, just that every day I'm learning new things. And if I sweat the small stuff and get really caught up on problems and I don't learn from them and grow from them, you can't make your business stronger, and you can't reinvent the wheel and pivot and do all the things you need to do to help it. And I think that there have been, obviously, we've all had many things. I had some yesterday. I had some last week. But I look back and there were so many times, obviously, that I just, specifically with COVID, every day waking up and thinking, is today the day I'm gonna call it quits? Um, but you have to think of it as this amazing magical life that the journey is the most important thing, and you have to continue to have fun with it, and you have to grow and learn.
Yeah, that's true. I can so much relate to what you said. Like I myself, I'm coming from an engineering background building software. When I started this company to build the order management system for retailers, I had no idea how to sell it, how to get our first customer, and uh, I would go around, and in fact, I would sometimes. It was like, I've seen in movies that people go around and you accidentally meet people in the Starbucks coffee shop or something. So I would spend few days or days walking on the streets in New York, hoping for some magic to happen, something to drop off my sky, and something, I land a contract or something. So not having marketing or sales background was such a difficult challenge for me, but with time it was able to resolve itself, because I said, I'm not going anywhere. Only thing I have is that I'm not going to quit. This is the only strength I have. It's like, I'm not going to quit. And then, magically my first account just came. And since then, and then again, there was this important one that I would I see what you did is like really focused on comfort shoes, like something that in those days other shoemakers would not do. In fact, I was not smart enough to know even that I had to focus on something that those big shots are not doing. I was trying to compete with them, those big shots, in their own way, in their own product line, because I could build such products for much less cost. Um, but then, I met a really good person in this retail business, and he advised me. He advised me that, these big giants like Shopify, they have deep pockets. You don't even think of competing with them. In fact, all you need to do is what they don't do. That's all. Become an order management system for Shopify. There are retailers who are on Shopify, but they have a hard time with their order management system. So build that order management system. And we removed our e-com piece, connected our OMS with Shopify. And since then, with that one advice, I've been sticking around. Just stick to that one focus, and been going on, and it's been a really good journey. So I could relate that whole thing is like, it's hard, but if you don't quit, you will not lose, because to lose, you have to quit.
It's so true. You do. You can't, you have to every day just keep going, and I think that's it. If you've you finally found this thing, and you need to hold on to it. And I said that during COVID to all of my employees. I said, I'm not quitting now. It doesn't matter if we have to start from the ground up and just start all over, which is what we did. We basically closed all 32 stores and opened them back up one by one, and we started a nonprofit and a clothing company during COVID, which again, we took a problem and made it an opportunity, and it made the company stronger and our culture stronger.
Yeah. So I want to talk about those two topics before we end this conversation today. One is your nonprofit, and the other one is your interest and focus on retail locations. So I'll start with the retail location thing, and then we'll finish with the nonprofit, right? So I've been reading about you. I've been listening to your podcast, other podcasts that you've done. I get that you are so much focused on retail, physical retail, in-person retail, and I don't think you are a big fan of e-com or digital kind of retailing. So well, in these days, what I've been seeing is that a lot of people are shopping on their phone. So for me, at least the perception is that most of the shopping is happening on phone. People, buy online and maybe go in the store, pick up in the store, or things like that. Now, tell me about your side of the story. I want to really know why you are so bullish on the physical store, the real life experiences, and not so much interested, or I don't want to put words, but like tell us about your take on e-com.
So, when I started this business, there was no e-com. So I didn't really have a choice way back when. I used to fax my orders to Mexico. We didn't even barely had cell phones. So that wasn't really a choice then. But I did grow up in the retail world. My mom had women's clothing stores, and again, I think it goes back, I'm a retailer at heart because I want to establish those relationships. And it's so much more than just shoes because I'm meeting these people and I'm engaging in people. And my dad used to say every business is a people business. And if you appreciate that and you respect that, then you realize the foundation of a brick and mortar store and what that actually means and the heart and soul of that where yes, we have this magically comfortable shoe product that looks incredible on every woman's foot, goes in the washing machine. It's incredible, but on the flip side, we're also creating these relationships and these conversations, and every day is not just about selling a product. It's about meeting a person that, like you, that I've met now. I met you 3 weeks ago, and every day we get to meet new people and learn about their journeys and learn about them and grow from those relationships. So I think it's very hard to translate that online, and we do. Obviously, we have a website. I spend money now marketing my website, but to your point, I'm not the big dogs. I don't have a bunch of Silicon Valley money pumping it into my e-commerce marketing. I started basically every shoe I sold, I could pay my electricity bill, and I still have a business now that I take pride in saying we don't have any debt, and I like it that way. So, the journey online is very different very hard to replicate an in-store magic, if you will. I think we do a really nice business online because our customer is so loyal, and if she buys one pair of shoes in you know tan, she can get online and buy that same shoe and it fits the same in 40 colors. So it's like Baskin Robbins for your feet. If you try it once, you like it. Um, so we've been lucky in that journey. But it's difficult for me, and that's probably because I'm in the space of design and I'm in the space of retail. I have people in my marketing department, and they do that, but I've always scratched my head about e-commerce. And I do put stores in towns that people, to our point earlier, people are shopping as an experience. If they're on vacation, they're going to lunch with friends, they're they're going into stores, and they're not worried about their phone because they're enjoying the moment. When we're home and we're working, that's when we shop online because we don't want the monotony of getting into traffic and all of that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That because like your stores are located in a way strategically positioned in tourist towns where people are coming to have fun. They are having real fun right there in the present moment. So they are not using phone as much, or they are not shopping at home because they are not even at home. So at that point, yes, they are passing by the store, they stop by, or they make it a point to come to the store because they know about your product, right? So that's why maybe they are coming, and this is reason I can totally understand why your stores, you are more focused on brick and mortar retailing and not so much on e-com. I'm sure like you still get a ton of business on e-com, just like you said, because if someone has purchased once, they know how exactly the shoe fits in, so they can keep buying online at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you said uh, putting people in the moment. I think we've forgotten about that with all of this new technology, and we forget how to live in the moment and take all that, you know, to heart and really enjoy our experiences more.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. So now let's come to your nonprofit idea. How did that idea come up, and how it's doing right now, and how it is helping people and your brand? I want to know the whole story.
So, right in 2019, I opened 14 stores. So we almost doubled our retail footprint, which was crazy. So if you can imagine coming into COVID, March of 2020, I have 32 stores. And most of them are just coming into season, have not really, experienced any kind of growth over the last 6 months. And, and, and I was also launching a shoe line that catered to the medical and hospitality line. Um, Women loved our shoes, but they wanted something to wear to work. They wanted something to wear all day to be comfortable. Our shoes are machine washable and slip resistant. So it was a perfect fit. And we found that a lot of people in the medical industry, be it from nurses and dentists to, you know, um, technicians and everything, everyone was wearing our shoes. But they wanted that closed toed option. So I launched this line and I was going to present it during COVID or during 2020 to all these different conventions. And of course, they were all canceled, and I have all this product. um, so I had to furlough, I had over 200 employees going into March of 2020, and I had to furlough all of them pretty much except for about five, which was difficult for me because they're my family and the reason we're all here. And in an effort to start bringing my employees back to work, I decided that we should start donating all these shoes we had, these shoes we created for nurses, to COVID floors around the country because, they were just in the weeds all day long, not living a normal life. And I wanted to bring them some kind of normalcy and joy. And women and shoes is an immediate recipe for joy. I don't know what it does, it's magical. But so I was able to bring back my employees by giving them tasks to, you know, run the logistics for getting the shoes to these hospitals, contact all the hospitals and and all of these created all these positions for me to be able to bring my employees back to work, give them something to be proud of and something for them to feel, excited about. If you're in retail, COVID was very difficult because we like to interact with people. So being at home was not normal for all of us. And so it allowed me to bring my employees back. It allowed me to stay in touch with my customers and show them what we were doing and really inspire not only them but our family and everything we had built. And so by the end of 2020, we had given $500,000 worth of shoes to COVID floors around the country, about 50, over 50 hospitals. And I termed it Shoe Joy. because the response from these nurses was just, it was magical. They were beyond excited, and they'd be like, well, we got free pizza and all this, but shoes are just amazing. So as we got out of 2020 and started getting back to our normal course of operations, I realized that this is, we're doing this becomes so much more than shoes. It's beyond shoes. And I loved what it did to my staff, and I loved what it did to myself and to my customers. And I wanted to continue to do that. And now to date, we've given over $2 million worth of shoes. We give them to everyone, to people that need shoes around the world, to people that are starting businesses and want to sell the shoes to make money to fund their entrepreneurial dreams. So it's been a great addition to what we do beyond shoes.
Awesome, awesome. This is really good. In fact, I like the creative mind, all this creative idea that you got right in the moment, because like at that was the time actually, because you had something. Generally, people get possessive about whatever they have with them, and they think that I cannot let it go for no money. It's hard-earned money and all that. There's a lot of attachment to things people have, and particularly for somebody who has worked so hard to build that business and is in so much trouble. Like you said, out of those 200 people, you could only hold up like 5 people. Rest of them you had to let go, and you had all this inventory and all that. So in that time, difficult time, to come up with this idea, somebody has to be so much conscientious about the real world, the reality around them, to be able to take that decision. Amazing, amazing actually in that moment. And I'm sure the people who tried your shoes for first time, they've been like talking about those shoes all over every time they meet someone in similar job profile. And I'm sure that is like has definitely put in a lot of new business, like it created a lot of new opportunity and new customers for you, right?
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully we keep passing it forward, right? And
Yes, yes.
spreading shoe joy.
Cool. So you know what? I remember your how you started, and so as we end this episode, I want to come back and talk about your trunk shows. That's like I want to end this episode with talking to you about trunk shows. I know you have all these retail locations, and these retail locations attract your customers, new customers. They come and try your shoes. At the same time, even after 26 years, you still keep doing trunk shows. Now, I want to know why. Because like people start doing all those hard things in early on, but once they make money, they are rich, now they're in the comfort zone. They don't want to do all those hard stuff. So you still do it. So I'm sure there's a lot of passion and energy around that.
It is hard because you're driving places, you're setting up a store every day, and you're breaking it down. And but if you love retail, it's like retail on steroids, right? I mean, because when you do one thing for a few days as opposed to every day, it just creates this amazing energy. And I absolutely adore a trunk show. It's the same reason I have small stores, because I feel that energy in a store with that's not so big and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's the same thing in a trunk show, and there's this frenzy that goes on. And I'll never forget. I mean, one of my first ever trunk shows, and which I still do today, because I kind of feel this sense of um, obligation to these people that awakened me to the trunk show business. And I said, no matter how big I get or how many stores I have or what have you, I'm always going to come back to this one show in Boca Grande, Florida. And it was just pure mesmerizing fun. And I still just get more joy out of going to a trunk show than I do anywhere else. So
Awesome. Cool. You know what? I would keep talking to you for hours. I am so much enjoying, but I know you are busy and we had to bring this to an end at some point. So let's do this. I'm so happy and this is a really perfect time. I've talked to you about all these things and I love your conversation. So thank you very much for being guest on our show today. Yeah. And I'm sure your customers are going to keep getting new cool products.
Great. And your wife too. So I'll see you too in Charleston.
Yes. That's it for this episode of the Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast. Please rate and review and recommend to a friend or a fellow retail fanatic. This podcast is presented by Hotworks Commerce.